Hey guys, what's going on? It is Ash here. Hope you're all having a lovely day. Today, I'm coming at you with another episode of my tournament deck series. This time reviewing what I'm calling a very aggressive control deck. It's kind of an oxymoron there because usually if you're a control deck, you're not necessarily aggressive, but this deck could be one of a kind. I'm really excited to share it with you guys today. So here's the deck right here. I actually nabbed this off of somebody who came in first place in one of my recent tournaments, and boy, am I loving it. It's absolutely great, and it's a little bit unorthodox, something you're not used to seeing in ladder play, and we'll basically just go ahead and show you a few of the replays and talk you through how to play the deck, because it's one of those decks, you know, like almost every deck, where you really need to know what to do and how to play, how to be aggressive yet passive at the same time, where to put the furnace, where to use the guards, when to use the spirit goblins. Like, we'll talk about all that today in today's episode. Really excited to have fun with you guys. By the way, that guy who I just showed you on the screen right there, he's the one who used the deck. You can see he's using a bowler deck right now, but I just used the deck myself in this tournament, and I came in 4th place out of 100, so not too bad. Of course, these really big YouTuber tournaments, have you guys tried any of those yet? First of all, very hard to get in. Second of all, whoa, the competition is really difficult. I finished 220th out of 1,000 in one recent tournament right now, kind of closing off tournament week. But as you can see, ever since I started using this deck, I've been having a lot more success, and I guess the best way to do this episode today is really talk about each card individually and how the best way to use it in the deck would be. I think as a viewer, I'd find that the most helpful, so that's kind of the format we're going to take on today's episode. So watching these replays, let's start by talking about the furnace, because that's really the key to this deck, and you want to take special note of where my furnace is right now on my side of the map. That is the perfect area to put the furnace for several reasons, right? Number one, it will distract hog riders, it will distract, you know, princes, dark prince, mini pekka, any fast moving unit. And number two, placing it in the spot you saw me do there, it's very difficult to target and take it out with a royal giant. You have to essentially place the royal giant exactly on the very edge of the other side of the water, and it requires precision placement on that royal giant on the opponent's end. So we don't want that. Make sure you have it exactly where I have it right now. We'll distract the hog rider in either lane, and it's just a perfect location. Not only that, but if you have the furnace in your starting hand like I did in this replay here, make sure you use it as your first card unless they come out the gate like really strong with something that, you know, they lay all their cards on you for whatever reason. So that is the furnace. So the furnace is going to be a very important part of this deck. You want to make sure you put the furnace on the board, preferably the entire match. You want to have one furnace. In this deck, there's really no need. It's not like a hut spammer deck, so you don't necessarily need to have more than one furnace on the board. It's not like you can't in a bind. Maybe you're full elixir and your opponent is full elixir too, and you're a standoff and you want to make another furnace. That's fine. But I think even in that situation, I still might use the poison, and that's the next card we're going to talk about in this deck. The poison in this deck, you want to be aggressive with it. So here you can see right now on the screen, I'm using the poison against the elixir collector as well as the tower, and you can see those fire spirits summoned by the furnace or spawned by the furnace are still helping me out defend against these barbarians and whatnot. Now you can see I have a royal giant. I'm playing against a royal giant deck here, so you want to be careful. There's not a lot of great counters in this deck to royal giant. There's no ice wizard, there's no barbarians, you really only have the mini pekka, so you want to make sure if you're going against a royal giant, you want to make sure you have that mini pekka somewhat available. Now luckily it's a cheap elixir deck, so you can pretty easily cycle back to the mini pekka when needed. You can see here he actually does place that royal giant in the perfect spot there to be able to target my furnace. That's actually very rare that someone actually nails that location there, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But guys, we've talked a lot about the furnace, we talked a little bit about the mini pekka, so let's finish up on the mini pekka. The mini pekka in this deck should be mainly a defensive card. Now that's not to say you're not going to get your mini pekka to one of these towers here and there, get some decent damage using the mini pekka. That's all fine and well, but mainly what I'm saying is when you use the mini pekka, it's primarily going to be defensive on your end, and hopefully he can change that into an offensive strike. So mini pekka, you really want to reserve for giants, royal giants, golems or any other strange large hit point, giant skeleton, something that people aren't using too often, even a Sparky. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to counter a Sparky, probably in an upcoming video as well. But now you can see here we're in somewhat of a stalemate here in overtime. Now, all these episodes, by the way, are going to be more catered towards tournament play. All my episodes, for the most part, are going to be more catered towards tournament play from now on, because I really, really love tournaments, and I don't think I'm going to be covering too much ladder content, at least for the time being, because I'm just really a big fan of tournaments, especially because the card levels are capped, obviously, so it makes you really feel that skill is really given an opportunity to let shine. Granted, not everybody has legendary cards, but you get the point here. So again, we're in a stalemate right now, and my thought process, we talked about the pekka, let's talk about spear goblins a little bit. So spear goblins are a great versatile unit in the game. I think they're underused. A lot of people prefer goblins, and I do too in most decks, but spear goblins can come in handy, right? So first of all, they give me a great option against air in this deck. You can see that besides the Spear Goblins and obviously the Fire Spirits that are summoned by the Furnace, I don't have, and the Princess obviously, I don't have any air targeting troops at all. So Spear Goblins are very important in this deck. Now, another thing I love to do with this deck, because it's a control deck. Now, what is a control deck, right? So a control deck is a deck that you can really sit back on. You're prepared to go the entire 6 minutes if necessary, and if you don't make any mistakes, you should be able to defend beautifully against everything the opponent can throw at you, because it's a control deck. You can control the pace of the game. You can be more aggressive and you can cause your opponent to react to what you're doing, or you can be more defensive and you can control the tempo of the game. So that's what we're doing here. We're picking and choosing our spots, and with the Spear Goblins, as I was getting to, obviously you can use them defensively. Make sure you use them using a triangle defensively. What is a triangle? In case you haven't watched some of my previous videos, make sure you run a triangle defense where you're placing the Spear Goblins either first or last, and what you want to do essentially is use your Furnace, use your Spear Goblins, and then use a third card. So it could be a mini pekka depending on what they're coming at you with. It could be a miner in a pinch. It could be your princess, and make a triangle that will pull the troops in every which direction. And it's one of those things you kind of take some honing to really get your skill down as far as setting up that triangle defensively. But when you do, it can really work wonders. That's something that people should really practice on, is how to mount a really nice defense. You'll actually see some nice defenses. No big deal. In this video, you can see that he's playing a golem, so you're going to see how I handle a golem when it's coming at me with a full push. So the Spear Goblins, the last thing I did want to mention before we move on, is the Spear Goblins, I love throwing them right at the midway point, getting a few quick hits on my opponent's tower, especially to open up a game. Because this deck, by the way, triangle defense right here, we have guards, furnace, and Spear Goblins all forming a triangle. Then I have a mini pekka that I'm just going to keep replenishing this triangle. You can see Spear Goblins are going untouched because they're in the far eastern corner of my little defensive triangle, and he barely touches anything. And you can see I even evoke a wow out of my opponent. It's very basic. It might look a little bit complex or crazy or unorthodox, but it's really basic move. Just try to create a triangle with your defending troops and units in the case of the Furnace. So anyway, let's go on here and cover the rest of the cards before we go ahead and end this replay. So the guards are absolutely fantastic. They only cost 3. They can absorb a full hit off of anything. So you can use them against a pekka, against a prince, even against a dark prince with that AoE damage, even against a wizard or 3 musketeers, just to buy yourself a little bit extra time. I really do feel like the guards are a great and very versatile card, especially defensively, which is the name of the game on this deck. Now, Zap Spell, you guys already know how to use Zap Spell. In this deck, you obviously want to use it against air troops, minions and minion hordes for sure. You have the princess as well, so you have a couple weapons against those low hit point air troops, but Zap is very important, obviously, against Sparky to reset his attack timer. Zap is important against Royal Giant to reset his attack if you want him to target your furnace that you just placed down versus your tower. So Zap is obviously an incredibly versatile card. Now, your miner, very important in this deck, and if you don't have the miner, by the way, you can substitute Goblin Barrel and still have the same type of effect, because the miner in this deck, you can use him obviously to target elixir pumps as soon as they're placed down by the enemy. That really helps against these power decks. Also, the miner is mainly going to be your tool to chip away at a tower. So if I had to really nail down the 3 things you're going to be using a miner for in this deck, it would be 1, to chip away at a tower here and there, pick your spots. Number 2, to go ahead and take down any kind of elixir pump, elixir collector. And number 3 to take down a princess that's in the back of the big oncoming push. And before I let you guys go, I did want to mention real briefly the poison spell, because we didn't talk too much about the poison in this deck yet. And basically, the poison, I'm a huge fan of it, and I want to be aggressive with poison. Anytime that the opponent plays barbarians near their tower, I'll go ahead and use poison against it. Anytime they play an elixir collector against near their tower that I'm targeting, I'll use poison against it if I have the extra elixir. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the format of today's episode. If you like it, let me know. I'll continue doing these hopefully daily. And guys, don't forget to check out the comment section. I do host a free tournament with the password in the comments that I put as soon as I upload a video, every single upload. So guys, thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a wonderful day. As always, take care, guys.